Just put that right on there.
Okay, no, that's great. But yeah, we should together. I love talking about this stuff. I've been doing it for a lot of time. Oh, really? I just did it. I never actually read the
Market got a lot.
instructions or the training that they offer. I just kind of started playing with it. It's really not that crazy.
By the way, just so you have my
Oh, here's me looking at comps for my one bedroom. I'm going to list it.
You guys typically wholesale
And what's nice too is if you're in the real estate world, I've had a lot of people who either became clients because they were staying in my rentals, or they were clients and needed a place to live while they were doing a rent back on the house they just purchased. And so I've had several people who were staying for 2 to 3 months because they were going to be here temporarily.
Are you guys, I think you guys have like waves here. How long have you guys been renting?
There's a bunch of them. So hospital.
How are you?
Good, how you doing?
Likewise. Is the cheapest. And it have all the functionality that I want. If you want to get some more leads or some more properties, then it might be worthwhile. But it's the first one I tried and I thought it worked fine. And it does everything.
I would say other like local wholesalers, like Ragen,
I haven't done is linked my smart locks. I'm not done the code yet.
Ask you about that. I'm
I
scared that
have
I learned
it,
that software.
I have it, but my Schlage lock is really glitchy, so I need to call customer service.
We got 7
So,
additions and flips going right now.
Schlage, it's just the lock brand.
You know,
And then you can go into the hospital or whatever platform
after a
you're
week
using
being on,
to be able
into coming
to
soon status, like.
link it to the lock.
Oh,
and have
hospital does that?
We got a couple clients.
It has like an app that it links you to the hospital, like it's called.
6 to 9
Yeah, so it's,
range,
I think we're
putting
getting
3
25
to
cents
600 into
per
it, and
code
then
they
sell
put
for
in,
that
but not have
1.5
to
to
worry about
1.9
it.
range, not like new construction,
So,
but similar to that.
And,
I would say, yeah, we're buying probably 60-70% on the market.
So,
we'll get a lot.
yeah, we got the breezeway. So I'm actually looking into it. I'm going over to my property tomorrow. I have,
I've heard that the cleaners have to upload pictures when they're done.
yeah, so I wanna start
Yeah, they
doing
want
that
the time to
because
kind of
if
do the
somebody
test
comes
market.
in and they, mess up your
But then
rental,
they have an agent on
and you
their
have
side telling
documentation,
them.
otherwise it's like, how do you know?
Yeah.
So I just downloaded all of these, there are different cleaning apps that are like, just by, yeah, go ahead. And so I'm gonna go over to my house tomorrow and play with them and see which one I like best. And then have my crew start using them, because right now they're not.
Well,
And they do a pretty good job, but I still go after they clean
bring stuff to each other.
about 50% of the time, and I almost always find something that's not like quite how I want it,
Yeah.
but I'm also kind of a perfectionist, so it doesn't have to happen. I think I want it to be more like hotel, like standardization, so that's what
Good people.
show up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the way they do it is totally fine for, your personal residence, but short-term rental, sometimes it's not like, the plant in the middle of the table, not on the side of the table. I wanna make sure you get that tiny spot out of the carpet, and I wanna, oh yeah, sure, got it.
All right, well, we are gonna go ahead and get started, and for you that have been here before, you know we really don't like to make this like a presentation type of thing, so we wanted to be way more interactive and kind of give and take, and people in the crowd, please, like, jump in. Obviously, kind of setting the stage, like, how did we find deals? We have a guest here, Bryden. He is a local wholesaler, attorney, everything extraordinaire. He knows what he's doing. We've bought a lot of deals from him, so we wanted to kind of bring him in so he could share some of his experience as well. And, we'll just kind of jump right into it, right? To set the stage, if you're a real estate investor, we are in the sales and marketing business, right? As you guys know that, it's all about finding the deal, right? There's no money to be made unless there's a deal to be had. Whether you're wholesaling a home, fixing a home, or finding a rental, until you get the lead, there's really nothing. So that is our #1 priority. How do we find deals? And that's why we're in a group like this, right? We like to mastermind, network, but then also figure out like what's working out there, what can we be doing, and what are other folks having success with. So that's really where we kind of wanted to jump into this. And again, these are just slides that we have that we kind of have to go through. It's important that you're purposeful. You can waste a lot of valuable time and money if you don't have a great plan or model to copy and implement. That is one thing that I will say, like, we're big into the Keller Williams thing that talks about like, being creative and having models. But like when you're too creative and you're not following the models, that's when it really gets out of whack. But if you have a plan in place that you are actually implementing, that then you get creative after that, like build a foundation on what works, like what's actually bringing an ROI, and then after that, then kind of play with it, but don't try to get too creative from the jump. Just do the tried and true method of what works for you. And again, there's different models of what works for you. I know you have different ways of finding deals than other people.
Just piggybacking off that, there's a bunch of different marketing strategies you can go with for off-market deals. SMS, cold call, Craigslist, Facebook, and just to reiterate what he says, do what works for you. I would just recommend they all work. There isn't really a best strategy. It's really just picking one and staying consistent with it for at least 60 to 90 days. That seems to be the average amount of time it takes to see the snowball effect. Everyone wants to hop on the phones and get a home run deal their first day, but a lot of times, most of the times, it's not really how it works. It's really just about staying consistent and doing what works. And if you do the same thing every day, you will eventually see deals come your way.
No, for sure. And I think obviously the goal of any business, right, is to create predictable revenue and income, right? Like you want to know if I do this, or I make this many calls, or I send this many mailers, or talk to this many people, I should be able to find one deal. That's really like what we zero in on. And I think as you have a much larger sample size, as time goes on, like you can make those metrics are super important. I mean, you guys are doing it at a national scale. We're doing it here at a local scale. No matter what you guys are doing, like there is something where it's like, okay, if I do X, Y, and Z, I should finally be able to get A, right? And I think that's the biggest thing. And as time goes on, you're able to really zero in on those numbers. And this is where we kind of take the approach called zone, like zone it and own it. So it's an easy acronym, but like Z is for zero in on your target market. Everybody has a different game that they're playing. You guys wholesale, right? We like to fix and flip or do an addition. You guys like to build. So I think there's a lot of people that, depending on what your criteria is and what avenue of real estate investing that you guys are targeting, I would say, again, jack of all trades, master of none type of thing. We find ourselves in that shoe a lot, like where we're just like try to do everything good and you do nothing great. I think it's, if you can really kind of hone in on what you're looking for and finding out what your target market is, that is really where you should be spending a lot of your time. I mean, for you, I know obviously wholesaling is like your kind of top priority. Do you guys do any like flips and stuff like that, or do you just kind of stick with that only?
Yeah, so wholesaling is what got me the cash. So a little bit about me. I grew up in the area. I went to law school at George Mason, and I was a settlement agent at Echo Title. And I started out wholesaling and ended up having some success in that, and bird my way to 50 rental units. And then sold a building, and now I'm at about 36 units up here, and mainly in like the West Virginia area, about an hour away, and then 2 houses in Florida. But the thing about wholesaling is it's really just sourcing off-market opportunities, or they can be on-market, and a lot of times nowadays they are, because inventory is so low. But it's about sourcing deals that work for you and that you can put into a box. So, for instance, you can find a lot of seller finance opportunities on the market, and that's one way you can just hop right into making calls today or tomorrow. So while I am wholesaling, I'm also an investor looking for my own deals, and I think that's how everyone should look at it. So every deal doesn't have to be a wholesale deal or a rental or a flip. It's kind of what makes sense, and I know you do this too in your business. What makes sense on the exit? What do you want? Do you want to hold this property or what? So that's a good way to
Well,
describe it.
and I think like the best thing about real estate investing, like we talked about, right? Like there is a highest and best use for each property, but what do you guys want to do with it? And I will say, Allison, who's in here, Allison has brought us a lot of deals over the years, and she's brought us some deals that honestly might not have been the best fit for us, but then we knew somebody that could build that house. Like we knew we could do a quick fix and flip, and that would have yielded a profit to X extent, However, we had a client that was willing to do a scrape and build, and that was a way better return for them. And then from us, from an, you know, a real estate side of things, we could monetize it and not have the risk and tie up the money and still have the commissions and the exposure that route. So I think it really kind of comes down to what is the highest and best, and like really what's our wheelhouse, and then kind of having those partnerships where whether you can capitalize on it, you should be able to capitalize on it one way or another, whether or not it's you actually taking down the deal or just brokering it one way or another. And I think that's where it really comes down to kind of what your value prop is. I think everybody has a different value proposition, right? Like, what do we do better than other people don't? And like, when people think of us building the brand, like what Allison knows, we are cash buyers, we can close in 5 days and that it's a done deal, no contingencies, and it's, you know, as good as gold. Now, Allison, I know you know other people that do that exact same thing, but because of the history and track record and that we've built our brand with you, you have the confidence to bring deals to us knowing that we'll be able to perform. And I think that that's a big piece of this business. So whether or not it's somebody that's making an introduction, you know, sometimes we have found deals that haven't worked for us and we've called Ragen and said, hey man, you have a pretty big network as well. Like, can you go ahead and blast this out to your people? We might have somebody that can take it down because it might be out of our area of expertise, right? We like to focus in Northern Virginia. We don't do much in Maryland or DC, but we come across those deals all the time. But it's not necessarily something that we're gonna take down. So it's like, hey man, like, can you help us disseminate this and you know, work the disposition side? So I think that's something that is really important. Again, just really zeroing in on what you want your model to be, and your model doesn't need to be what anyone else's model is. You know, it's just like, what do I want to do? How do I want to do it? And kind of attack it that way, as opposed to casting too wide of a net. Like, I mean, not to put you on the spot, but you were just talking about your short-term rentals, and you have a phenomenal deal where you're cash flowing 6 figures a year in Falls Church, you know, for a short-term rental that, you know how to perfect that system, and you've been working on that now for a year, and you're just even tightening up your margins even more. So that's something that I have no idea how to do that, or would be nowhere near as efficient, but those type of deals would be something that you'd be looking for.
Right.
So I think just really kind of knowing who you are and what you want to do is really step one, and then kind of after you take that effect, then it's a matter of like owning the market share, right? So this is where it comes down to in my opinion, of like doing a good job of marketing, right? Not everybody has millions of dollars that they can just throw at national marketing. But what you can do is, what we do is straight networking, face to face, belly to belly, making calls, hitting up people. That is where we have found our best deals, and you'll be surprised, right? Like, I mean, we're in the real estate world of working as real estate agents, as, you know, top producing team, but we still have other agents that are still bringing us deals, right? Allison is a great agent at that. Bryden is a great wholesaler. Because we have a certain cadence, and one thing that we do is, aside from just reaching out to people, trying to, you know, get face-to-face time, we have a cadence of once every 3 weeks to the top producers in Northern Virginia. We're sending out an email, and also we're calling them saying, hey, we're cash buyers, we'll close in 7 days, any property you have. A recent top producer brought us a deal that was off the market a couple months ago in the fall. He works with a lot of builders. They all passed on it. It's over here in North Arlington. They wanted $1 million. We ended up giving them $875. They took it because they were moving to College Station. They wanted they're going to their retirement home. They had previously bought this home in 2009 as a foreclosure, and it looked like it was still a 2009 foreclosure. But you know, it was a large 3-level colonial with a detached 2-car garage on a great 1/4 acre lot. We ended up putting about $350 grand into it. And because the market bailed us out, and because of the missing middle that was recently passed, the land is worth a lot more than it was when we bought it. And we're closing on it next week for $1.7 million.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Nice.
best deal we've ever had, which is great to make that big gap. Thank you, Lord. But to that point, that was a top producer, and he sells $100 million of real estate every year, but he couldn't get rid of that home within his database, so he brought it to us strictly because he saw an email that we sent out saying we buy houses. So whatever your cadence is, like, that's where it's really a matter of like owning the mind share of whatever your market is. Like, hey, we buy houses, or if you're mailing a specific farm, right? Like you're like, hey, I'm only gonna operate in this neighborhood in Falls Church, but I want everyone to know that we will, we'll buy your house. However you want to approach that, whatever your messaging is, you just continue to hit them and own the market share. And I know you've done a really good job of that over the years. And maybe hit on that, like how are you owning mind share?
That brings me to, I guess, one of my favorite marketing strategies called agent outreach. So it's as simple as just going on realtor.com and typing in Woodbridge agents. And you can filter them by volume or deals done, and just calling every single agent, giving them your pitch, telling them what you're looking for, whether that's fixer-uppers, Airbnbs, people that may consider seller finance offers. And it's important to touch on all the bases, and not only that, but follow up with them. And I don't have an email blast like he does, but I do have a lead management system, and I think that's really important because the deals are in the follow-up, and as soon as you add someone to your system, they're probably not going to have something for you. But if you continually follow up with them, you're going to be that person that they think of when someone comes across their desk. So I'd say staying organized and building as many relationships with realtors or everyone in the market.
Yeah, and again, I think like the biggest thing too is like, it doesn't take money to have to like own mind share, right? It certainly helps, like depending on what your avenue of marketing is, but it doesn't cost any money to pick up the phone and call people, right? It doesn't cost any money to set meetings and get in front of people. Now, it does cost money to put out bandit signs or send mailers or have an SMS blast. There are some pretty cost-effective ways that you can do that, but again, no matter what your target market is, like figure that out and then literally just continue to crush it. Obviously, you guys are a national brand, so I don't know if you mind, like kind of saying, at a larger scale, kind of what you guys are doing or kind of how you guys find deals. I mean, I know you guys have millions of dollars in your back pocket, but.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I feel like the strength of kind of what we do at New Western is more in our numbers rather than the marketing dollars. Like we send out a ton of direct mail. We do everything imaginable that would whether it's Google ads or anything like that. We're doing it. We're paying for it, but most of it actually comes locally from our agents sourcing on Facebook, on Craigslist, believe it or not, like just reaching out to agents like they were saying, dealing with wholesalers, stuff like that. So I mean, there's so many different ways to find deals, and you don't need to spend money on it. Like I guarantee it. Like most of the deals I've done, have definitely not come from marketing dollars paid for by New Western. So I feel like it's honestly, agent outreach is probably where I've had, most of my success.
Yeah. And I feel like that's the thing, like, because the truth of the matter is, like, if you have an army of agents that are out there looking for you, they're gonna bring deals to you, and they're the ones that are like walking Main Street, and they know what the Smiths are doing, or what, XYZ is happening at 123 Main Street. Like, those national, like, aggregators where you're just, like, throwing, there's the shotgun approach of spending a lot of money and sending mailers, and sometimes those do hit, but casting a wide net. But I think having more of that like rifle approach where you do have those people that are on the ground, that is gonna in my opinion, definitely brings the biggest bang for the buck from an ROI perspective and allows you to kind of get in there first, right? Like that's the biggest thing. In today's market, it's super competitive. So if somebody's talking to one investor or wholesaler, they're probably talking to 3 to 5, if not more. So it's really a matter of like, all right, how do you get to the lead first, and then how do we capitalize on that to then where we can then distribute that to the network and figure out the best way to monetize that deal. After that, it talks about obviously prospecting, right? That is the outbound type of activities where you are literally trading time for money, right? It doesn't cost anything to do that. It just takes time to pick up the phone and get over any fear of rejection or failure and just start calling people, right? Like I personally do not like doing that, but the beautiful thing about being on the phone is you can pretend to be whoever you want, right? So it's like, all right, what am I feeling today, and what's my script today, and this is what I'm saying. I would say number 2 for us, we were talking about this before we got started, right now, from what we're seeing, obviously everybody knows there's a lack of inventory, right? Both on and off the market. What we have seen is there's probably 25% of homes or more that trade hands off market compared to what's on. But even the homes that are on the market and listed, we personally have 7 projects that we're working on right now. 5 of those we bought on the market, and we typically help clients and ourselves do about 30 to 50 flips or builds a year. And I would say over the last, since COVID, so the last 3 years or so, more than 50% of those deals have come from on the market. And I would say that there's a couple criteria that we look for. Obviously, when homes are listed as a coming soon, we go ahead and we write offers on those. If we know that the numbers are right, we'll drive the lot. We can't technically get into them, but we will write an offer that expires the time that home goes active. So if the agent decides to make it active, then our offer's off the table. After that, if a home's been on the market for 10 plus days, we are hammering people. I don't really care about hurting sellers that I don't know's feelings about, of writing an offer. And, to kind of give you an example, there was a home that was on the market that we are now 3 weeks into construction on. It was a duplex in Delray on Hickory Street, and they listed at $688. The ARV is honestly, it's like $850, so we knew it was completely overpriced given what it was. It was an estate sale. I looked up the agent. She sells about 2 houses a year. So it was like one of those things where you're like, all right, she just kind of told them whatever they wanted to hear. On day 11, we decided to write on the home. We ended up competing with two other cash offers. We ended up getting the home for $561. They were at $688, and it's looking like, it's a $120,000 renovation on a 1,800 square foot duplex. So there's still a good margin there, but that was something that was on the market. And there's a lot of agents out there, honestly, that don't really know what they're doing. Like, it's that 80-20 rule, in my opinion. 80% know what or 80% don't know what they're doing, and they do 20% of the business, and 20% know what they're doing, and they do 80% of the business. But it was kind of mind-blowing to me that there was like that type of spread or that type of inconsistency in pricing to what the actual market value was. But like, you have to know what you're looking for. And I would say that really tends to be one of our biggest, I would say, flows of businesses on the market. And I know you kind of hit on that too. You guys are buying a lot on the market as well.
100%. Yeah, I feel like, with agents, like you were saying, like a lot of agents, they're doing like 1 listing a year. You really like give them more credibility than a lot of the times they deserve. And so, yeah, buying on the market's huge, especially right now.
Yep. Yeah. Have you done a lot on the market, or most of your stuff off the market?
Yeah, no, fully agree. MLS is a great place to get deals today. And if it's not selling, there's no inventory right now. So if it's on the market for 10 plus days, there's price discrepancy. So go in and don't be afraid to make 5, 10 lowball offers a day. And it's just something you need to get used to if you want to flip properties or get good deals. And there was a house 100 days on market in Florida. I made a seller finance offer on, and I got them to agree to 10% down and a 2.5% interest rate. So it's just a numbers game. You just gotta keep trying until something sticks.
And I would say, like, to that point, like, we have an internal team goal of making 10 offers a week of on the market properties. So stuff that's been sitting out there. And again, it's like a potential like motivated seller that you meet, and you're nurturing them for multiple weeks and months until they actually are able to come around and to your pricing, or they sell it to somebody else. But it's the same thing with agents that have listings on the market. It's really one of those type of things, and you'll be surprised too. There's agents will give a lot of information away because most agents want to make a sale more than they care what they sell the home for. So keep that in mind. And I would say even on point 3, we have one agent that sends us a lot of deals. She just scours Facebook Marketplace, and she finds some incredible deals on there. And like, to that point, like, if you look up, for sale by owner, like these different websites, military by owner, some of these people, like, when you see folks that are doing that, you already know mentally they're trying to cut costs because they want to keep their bottom line as tight as they can. So sometimes a lot of their pricing is certainly unrealistic, but you can find good deals on that as well. And we kind of take that same approach to the, for sale by owners and all of that stuff, and just, throw offers out to them. And then lastly, it's not the most time efficient way of going about it, but knocking on doors definitely works. Like that's something that we do around our projects. With the 7 projects that we currently have, we just bought one here in Falls Church City. We did a project that Allison brought to us, and we ended up selling it. And the neighbor has a house that is very dilapidated and fallen apart. And our business partner went and knocked on the door, and they almost like shot him off the front porch, right? Like immediately. And then after like a quick 30-second conversation, they let him into the house. According to what he told us, he was the first person in their house in 8 years. So these people, very recluse, right? They're like, but he was able to kind of wear them down based on conversations. It's actually at 219 West George Mason, so right across the street. They moving down to Richmond. We bought their neighbor's house that already had the addition for $850, and it ended up selling for $1.5 after we did a lot of renovations to it. This one is the standard like little colonial, 3-level colonial, but we're gonna do an addition on it and double the size of the house. They basically sold it to us for $640, and we're targeting that same 1.5 out sale after a $500,000 to $600,000 addition, which will take probably 12 months. But it's one of those things where it's like, had we not knocked on the door, that opportunity, they would never have called us or responded to a mailer. But that knocking on the door, getting out of Corey's comfort zone, like is paying dividends of, so that type of stuff, it does work. Like, it's one of those things where you think like, oh man, that doesn't work. It actually does. And it's kind of mind blowing when it does, because you're like, I personally think, I'm like, this is not gonna work. But when it hits, you're like, man, this actually hit.
It really works.
Yeah. And then obviously like the networking, right? Like having people know what you do is number one, right? You're in the right place at the right time. I think the biggest thing and why we do these meetups as well is like we want to be a connector. We want to be a resource for everybody in the room, and we also want people, ideally, right, to bring us deals where we can collaborate. And if you have a deal that maybe doesn't work for me but could work for Bryden or could work for whoever, like we want to be able to help facilitate that. So I think that's a big thing. Like we're big proponent of like you can't outgive, right? So like we're not making money holding these meetups, but like we do know that building a community and trying to bring value of some sort will go a long way, and that it all comes back. So networking is huge to us. And then I guess when it comes to marketing, how would you say you kind of allocate dollars, or like is there a specific type of like return that you look for when you're trying different campaigns?
Well, a minimum of, I'd say 5x on your spend. But again, I'm not at as much of a scale as I would say a company like yours. I'm pretty much a one-man operation, and then I have 4 virtual assistants who spend time making calls with a dialer and then spend time SMS blasting. So they pretty much generate motivated leads, and then I follow up and close the deals. So I've done probably like 60 wholesale deals in 3 years.
Which is a ton.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's decent for being, one-man operation. But recently, though, there's been a lot of crackdowns in SMS blasting. Like just this week, it's a thing now. Your just accounts get flagged, and you have to create new ones to SMS blast. So I'm probably pivoting I'm in a transition phase where I'm trying to go towards more inbound marketing, like PPC and Google Ads, like you mentioned, or direct to agent method. And just because there's a lot of the regulations on doing things SMS at scale is becoming a lot harder. So I'm just going back to the traditional ways that will always work, and then trying to do some more PPC nationwide stuff.
Yeah. Well, and for you guys too, someone that does like a lot of those different type of campaigns and stuff like that, do you know if they have like certain thresholds that they look for, or is it just more of like a, let's just kind of cast a wide net and see what hits, and knowing that they have like a certain marketing budget, they're just like, hey, that's,
Yeah, so I'm not as involved in that, but we have like an affiliate company. It's just like HomeGo, and they have like, telemarketers that are doing it all day long, lots of direct mail. We actually pick the areas, the zip codes where they market, stuff like that, but, yeah, we just want like, you know, if you're trying to sell your house fast for cash,
Think of
investors
us.
pop up first,
Yep.
obviously, but, nothing, yeah.
Yeah. Who else has had success? I mean, Allison, obviously, I know you do a really good job of finding off-market deals. Like, what have you done to find them? And like, what have you found that is, you know, for your marketing or prospecting time and effort and energy and money, like to bring the biggest returns? And like, what are you seeing the best success in?
I don't market for the things I bring you. They just come in along with everything else that comes in because my day job is being a full-time professional realtor. The place on West Greenway that you just did, that came to me from advertising in Falls Church News Press. The owner called me and you know the story. He interviewed a couple of different agents to list the house. He picked a different agent to list the house, but I knew it would be a good fit for you, so I went to you and you ended up buying the house. So that, I put out that I do off-market deals. That's sort of part of my value proposition to people. So several times a year, people will come to me and say, we need to sell our house, but we want to do it on the down low. And I say perfectly fine. I know all about how to do that. And I guess when I was doing wholesaling full time, what I would do was go through and this was a good method, DC tax records, and I learned how to manipulate the tax records really well with some software. And I could pick out vacant houses, distressed houses, people who were behind on their taxes, and then I'd mail them a cheerful postcard saying, hi, just curious if you might be interested in selling your house. And I wouldn't mention, I know that you owe $60,000 in taxes. You know, I wouldn't mention that.
Yeah. It's just a random call.
Right, it'd just be a postcard. And I would just trip, and I got, nobody else was doing that. I don't know if anybody's picked up how to do that now, but, and you can do the same thing with houses that are going to tax sale in DC.
Well, and then like to that point, like, right, use technology to your benefit, and then you still have to do the work once you find the information that you're looking for. But there's a couple different like websites and apps that we use. We use Deal Machine, we use PropStream and REI Pro. You can curate a lot of different lists based off of different criteria through those, and you can get very, very like laser focused, whether it's a geographical area or a certain type of, you know, pre-foreclosure or something like that, where you can narrow in on that. And I think that's something that, you know, it's something that we've been diving into this year. We haven't really done that in the past, but because we want to try to scale like our local projects, we decided that this is something that we're doing at least around our individual projects or certain geographic areas that we want to focus on. So there's a lot of ways that you can really kind of dig deep into that. And then N in zone is for nurture and grow your database, right? Like as everybody always says, like your net worth is equivalent to your net work. And I truly do believe that. There have been the best deals that we've ever done, and we've been flipping and building houses since 2008. So we've done, you know, 250-ish, give or take, since then, personally, not helping clients. And I would say more than half of those have come from people that we have known or networked with. So I think that's something to, if I could say anything, like that is where I would be focusing a lot of my time. Obviously getting cold leads is one thing, but there is that nurture effect, and there's that, like, you know, going and closing. Like, what would you say, like from a standpoint of you get a new lead, and then from the time you meet them to the time that they actually transact, like what is that looking like?
Yeah, and this ties back to what I mentioned earlier about getting some sort of CRM or lead management system. Like I said, when you call someone, whether it's a motivated seller or an agent, they're most likely not ready to make a deal that day, or they don't have a deal for you that day. So with my wholesale leads, it's a minimum of 5 contacts before we send a contract. So that's 5 separate times I'm following up with that person before we finally have a deal. So.
Which Takes time.
Yeah, it takes time, and it's when you have also 10, 15 different deals going on in your head, or 10, 15 different people you're trying to stay in contact with.
It can be
really
overwhelming
helps.
unless you have something to manage.
Yeah, it helps to stay organized and trying to actually make this outreach into a business as opposed to just scatterbrained.
Yep.
What database do you use?
Podio?
Is that tailored towards like investing or is it just
Podio's like a broad CRM, but you can download templates for real estate investing. And you can just go on YouTube and type in real estate investor Podio template breakdown, and watch a 20-minute video and customize it to be like $20 a month.
Well, I would say too, like another, like, if you wanted to hit an easy button and you just like, let's say there's a certain specific area that you're like, this is what I wanna go after. I wanna do deals in the Lake Barcroft area of Falls Church. Driving for dollars on Deal Machine is great, right? Like you can track where you drove, and again, you're kind of curating your own list of what a home looks like. And then once you click 123 Main Street as you're driving by it, it'll populate, oh, they bought it back in 1991 and it's owned in their trust. So then to mail that, it's literally like 75 cents a pop, right? And typically they're getting hit like every 3 to 4 weeks, whatever cadence you decide to put on your mailing campaign, and you can change the mailer each month or whatever sequence that you want. But that's something that we're starting to see a lot of success in, and it's something that doesn't cost a lot of money. Again, it goes down to time, but that's where we're starting to find a lot of deals. And like to your point, like the goal is, right, you want that mind share and you want people calling you. Like it's a lot easier when deals are coming in and you have that inflow, but it does take time, energy, effort, and money to get to that point. So, I think everybody usually starts with the prospecting and trying to find them, but if you can get the inflow coming in, which you guys, I mean, that's a different level than a local real estate investor, but to have that type of inflow is huge, so.
Yeah, when you have inbound too coming in, usually those sellers are ready to sign a deal that day.
Exactly.
As opposed to you doing the prospecting.
Yeah, like they're ready to roll. Yeah, yep. And then E is for empower and impact your community. I will say, like, we're a big proponent of like just trying to give back. Like, we love to come from a place of contribution. If there's like any type of education or even to take real estate out of it, like a need that we can help fill for somebody that we know needs something, we want to be able to provide that, knowing that it will come back tenfold. And obviously hosting events like this and engaging in local businesses. That's one thing that I would say we've kind of made a concerted effort to do this year. Is there's a ton of local businesses, and those people, everybody knows 100 people that you don't know, that then know 100 people that you don't know. And like when you really think of it that way, your mind can expand. It's like, man, like somebody's gonna know somebody that needs help, and I wanna be the person that can help them in whatever regard that might look like. So that's something that we've really tried to like double down on this year, where we've just been so busy in the trying to build the business and try to, make money and keep the lights on and keep the salaries paid and all that type of stuff, where really like giving back, I think that does come back tenfold. And again, one of our like main like tenets is you can't outgive. But for you, out of your like community or your database, like how many deals do you say you're finding from that aside from your marketing and prospecting like avenues?
Yeah, so just in terms of networking with other wholesalers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge part of it. And a lot of that's just being active on Facebook is, I'd say, my biggest thing. It's pretty much where everyone new getting started likes to start looking. So, I see deals from other wholesalers that you can market to other buyers. So that's an approach called JVing a deal.
Yep. Well, and I would say too, like, we haven't had any success like buying any of yours or doing that, but like there are way bigger people than us out there that like their sole focus, like Market Pro Homes, right? We know them, and Four Brothers. We've done, I don't know, 40, 50 deals with them over the years, but there have been many times where we brought, our clients to buy those deals from them because they weren't really sure what they were looking for, and they didn't know how to come up with the ARV. And I will say, like, as a caveat, no offense, but every wholesaler that sends a deal out to a huge distribution list, like their ARV is about as high as it can possibly get, right? They're gonna say, you can sell this house for $1 million and the best comp might be 9-10, but you can sell it for $1 million. So, you know, take that with caution, but I think that's where, again, having a community and a network that you can bounce ideas off of. And I think that's where we really wanna this is the place where we're not, thank God we live in an area where it's such a big market, like it's a huge pie out there. We're not trying to go behind anybody's back. Like we try to operate from integrity and honesty. Like it's not a matter of like, oh, let me steal this deal from this person. If we can help somebody run comps and help you get that deal, we wanna help you do that. So like, please use us as like a resource of whatever we can do to help. We're not gonna be someone that cuts you guys out, but like, I would say proceed with caution when you're seeing those type of deals, but some of those wholesale deals are great. We've had clients that have bought from those companies and made a 6-figure profit on the back end because we knew that if you did X, Y, and Z with this, it would actually bump you up to that next price tier as opposed to just fixing what's there. So I think that's really a matter of like knowing the market and what you can and can't do, like the highest and best use. And obviously, by following that zone roadmap, you create a highly targeted sales and marketing machine that brings you leads and deals predictably month in and month out. And you know, I think as everybody knows right now, right, this is probably, I was just listening to a podcast the other day, the Housing Wire one, and I think they said it is literally the tightest real estate market from a supply that we have had since like 1 month last year. But I mean, it's like, there's nothing out there, right? So that's why you're still seeing homes. You know, there are some homes that hit the market and you're like, man, this looks like a good deal, and it is a good deal, but it gets bid up 150 grand. And those people, whoever bought it, that's gonna flip it or do whatever, unless it's an end user, all of their profit's gone. Like they paid way too much for it and they're gonna take a bath. And then on the back end though, you have some of those people that then are getting bailed out because they're taking that risk and they're saying, hey, here you go, like this is a good deal, I'm gonna continue to ride the market, and you can get burned that way. And like learn from like our mistakes. Out of the 250 deals we've done, knock on wood, we've lost money on 3. And 2 of them though happened to be in this last year. One was a house down in, it was in Stratford Landing, down near Mount Vernon, that we bought in last spring, right? Last April when rates were still around 4, right? No one knew rates were gonna go to 7.25. We bought that for $675. All the comps in the area at the time were $950. We put $125, $150 into it. Our contractor took longer and it didn't move in time. We went on the market in the fall when everything came to a screeching halt. No one was expecting that to happen. It didn't end up selling until January, and we ended up losing $94,000 on one deal, and you know, that was like a swift kick. However, the beautiful thing of it was like, we knew that was gonna be something that was gonna be a hit, but like we kept buying during the fall when everyone was scared, you know, so the market can shift quickly on you, but like all the product that we bought in the fall that was coming to market in Q1 and Q2 is now outperforming what our expectations were. So I think it really comes down to like, be conservative, again, stick with your wheelhouse. And I would say like for you guys too, like that's where wholesaling, in my opinion, is one of the best models, because you're literally trading paper, right? Like the risk is very minimal. The return on investment, because of the time frame, could be infinity, right? Because you're not actually settling on it. And you know, when it comes to construction and actually flipping, just make sure you have your numbers dialed in and having a good idea on that. And I think that's where finding the deals, the biggest piece, and then a matter of like knowing what you should be able to get rid of it for, and having a contractor that can do the work at a cost-effective number for high-quality work and within the time frame. That's where we have seen people get crushed. And going back to our zone really is homes that we can keep the square footage as it is, and if we need to rip out the walls and completely reconfigure everything without adding square footage, we can do that within a 3 to 6 month period and have it turned over. But you know, we're now starting to do pop tops and bump off additions, because we have found, like, in our opinion, there's a very big market for that, where it's like where you can buy something in that $600,000 to $800,000 range in Falls Church City, a hotspot of, you know, North Arlington, South Arlington, Alexandria, one of those Cape Cods or Colonials, double the size of the house, and you're not competing with new construction that's selling for $2+ million, but you're competing in that $1.5 to $1.8 million range. And if you can do that within that 9 to 12 month sales cycle, there's certainly profit margin to be there, but we have the numbers dialed in, and again, we don't know everything, right? Like we're sometimes we're like, hey, this is a gamble, let's do it, but we're trying to, I think sticking with your zone and what you want to do is really the main thing. Does anybody, in terms of like, I know I've been calling on you guys a lot, but like, is there anybody else out there that like is having success with certain things, or from a dialogue perspective, like any questions that we have? We have this room for like another 30, 40 minutes or so, and we want to open it up, one, to networking, but two, like to Q&A. So is there anybody that like, yeah?
The funny thing that you noted was the door-to-door, and you never think of it. You think it's so 1970s, 1980s, it's not going to work, but for us, it's work. We put 2 hours in, and the returns are surprising.
Yes,
So
you're fine.
You never know, and the thing is, the homeowner doesn't even know either. And you go in and you plant a seed, and it may be 6 months down the road that it'll come, and that's happened to us. We've done door-to-door. 6 months later, they call us, hey, this handsome guy came to the door.
Not me.
That's the only guy,
I love, yeah.
Yeah.
No, but honestly, and I think it's a matter of just like getting into activity, like
Yeah.
do something, right? Even if you do, even if you don't know what you're doing, do something. But when you have that type of approach, it pays dividends.
Yeah.
I just have a follow-up question for you. So is there any model for that? Like how do you choose a neighborhood? And like sometimes with political get out the vote, they have selected houses, they have a map.
So that's a good question. I mean, we're careful where we go in terms of making sure they have the equity. We do some homework up front. She mentioned tax records and things like, you gotta do your homework. You can't just randomly go do a shotgun approach because you just kill yourself. So there has to be some strategy behind it. The thing with us is we're a design build. We know what we can do. So when we go door to door, we can put those things in their brain and say, we did that over there. We can do that over here. You got 4 kids and you'll have a better home. So you gotta know what you're doing. I'm sure you've done 250 of them. And so when you go in, you know exactly what you can pitch and so forth.
Oh, for sure. And for you too,
Yeah.
like, I would say with the market that we're in, right, the higher interest rate environment, people are like, you know what, I've got 2.5, 3% on my house. Let me make this what I want, as opposed to going and
They don't
buying
care.
something like that. I mean, that's like for you, that's a great pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, from what you guys piggyback on what you're talking about he's getting back into more traditional marketing instead of the SMS. I found that like getting back to basics is like what's working now. All I do is send out direct mail. I just send out handwritten notes, handwritten letters to people, and for some reason, I don't know if the inventory is low or whatever, but people are calling. So every time I send out, I get at least like 20 calls back, you know what I'm saying, from sellers and stuff like that.
How many are you sending?
I send like 100 a cycle.
Okay.
So every 2 weeks I'm sending 100, and I'm getting like 20 to 15 calls from sellers, and out of those 20 to 15, at least 6 come to like, I go to them and we get something.
Like you're meeting in person?
Yeah, meeting in person and we get contracts.
Dude, that's a great hit rate.
So I don't know if it's because they're like, I'm scared or whatever, but like I guess that personal ability of people like, oh, like, you wrote me a letter, like I want to talk to you, like I found that's effective for me lately, so that's all I do.
Yeah. And I think to that point too, like handwritten letters, or whether it's a laser that's writing it, but the handwritten letter type of look has a much bigger impact than a postcard, right? Like there's certain they cost more.
I write them like myself.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it's legit handwritten.
Yeah, legit. I spend like 2-3 hours and I just write.
Okay.
Write them out, and I actually got a call from a guy in Arlington. He had a house I've been trying to get for like years. And he finally called back. He said, because I've been sending out the postcard stuff before. And he was like, I read the letter, and I usually throw them in the trash, but I read it, and I saw the handwritten note, and you mentioned my address and my exact street. So he's like, I wanted to call you. He said, people just say, oh, I'm looking to buy in Arlington or North Arlington, and my house is in South Arlington. He said, I just don't know the way. So I found that approach is effective right now.
Out of curiosity, how are you coming up with like your list of who you're targeting?
Majority is drive-by.
Okay.
For dollars.
So you're
and
seeing
then-
the dilapidated
yeah,
houses.
I'm seeing those, and then it's like I also use PropStream, so like I put together a list. I target like senior owners, high equity, and then the drive for dollars. Like those
Yep.
are my 3 things that I like to do, and it's effective.
Nice.
So
That's huge.
What were the 3 things? Drive, what was it?
I drive for dollars, senior owners, and what I just said?
High equity.
There you go. I'm tired.
It's been a long day of handwriting.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think, is there anybody else that's had success finding deals in other ways? I mean, I know you guys are building and stuff like that. How are you going about?
Yeah, I mean, people have touched on a lot of them. I mean, realtor connections have been big for us. You know, people within their office, if they're not getting it directly with, you know, unique situations they need to sell. We've done some wholesale deals in the past. Honestly, just being in certain neighborhoods with your sign out front, and kind of being there and let it known that you were buying houses has been interesting as well. I mean, we've had people literally walk onto our job site and say, we bought a house, literally this woman walked onto our job site, you know, talked to one of our, you know, subs that was working there and said, who's building this house, I'd like to talk to them. We got one like that, so that was interesting. That's not something that's repeatable necessarily, but
But we'll take it.
we will take it, for sure.
No, that's huge. And I guess like for other people that have been like doing deals or trying to find deals, like what else are you guys doing or seeing? Like what, like outside of like what we've talked about, is anybody else having success doing anything like outside of this that's starting to get hits? You know, I mean, obviously I feel like there's only so much you can do, right? There's whether it's person to person, SMX, calling, texting, and I guess when you guys are doing mailers or having signage, like, are you guys answering the phone yourselves? Do you guys have you're answering, okay, so you don't have like an answering service? I mean, obviously
I'm a big advocate of answering the phone yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was wholesaling, you know, people had these people answering the
Cat
phone
line or
or these,
something.
you know, answering services or blah, blah. I mean, just put yourself in the caller's shoes. Who do they wanna talk to, you know? I think that is so important to make the right first impression, to answer the phone yourself.
Well, the truth of the matter is, like, you're gonna be the one that, like, you'll be able to think quicker on your feet and probably cast a wider net from that conversation to be able to say, all right, like, talk them through the options and say, like, let's set up a time to
Yep.
meet, as opposed to somebody having an answering service in another country or something like that.
Right, yeah, I never liked that.
Yeah. Is there anything else anybody wants to kind of just throw out there to the group while we're all here before we kind of break to network? You know, obviously nothing off the table. Happy to kind of, yeah.
Did you get my postcard?
Did I get your postcard? I don't think so.
Alright.
Did you send it?
What?
Did you send it?
I did send a postcard in a unique way. It didn't get to you.
Well, did you send it here?
I'm pretty sure. I mean, it would have been worth discussing if you had gotten it, but.
Well, I didn't get it, but I can't say I'm the one that checks the mail.
Alright,
Like-
well,
Yeah. Anything else before we break? We definitely want to make sure you have enough, yeah, Tony, and then.
This might be kind of weird, but you said the market can change quickly, which we all know. And it's on my mind. Any ideas about the debt ceiling showdown and how things
Oh, man.
may go south or may not? I hope they don't, but
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a little scared right now. I put a bid on a deal, and it was like you were talking about, the damn thing went up like 90 grand above asking price.
Mhm.
It's like, you gotta be kidding me. How are these people gonna make money?
Yeah.
But in a way I was relieved. I'm kinda thinking ride this out, just for me personally, I'm not trying to discourage anyone. Kind of see what the G-men do here in the next couple months. You guys have any thoughts on that? Is it something you're paying attention to?
Well, inventory's low, rates are high. So many people just refinanced and bought and sold in the past couple years. So, in my opinion, prices are probably gonna stay the same or keep going up until, or if, everyone starts to lose their jobs. So I'd say that's probably the only thing that would make the housing market crash. Because what else would really make prices go down? I mean, at this point, rates are high and they keep going up, but it's not helping.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, like we've been through it before where like sequester and all that type of stuff, right? Where it's come up to that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm definitely tracking it, but like, I would say that that's not causing me to not buy deals, right? As long as I can find a deal that I'm happy with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that it's one of those things too. I think we are very, very fortunate to be in the market that we're in here. It's the most resilient, in my opinion, like insulated market in the DMV. You know, we have friends that have very big real estate teams out in Austin and in Texas and in Denver and in Seattle. And those prices have come down 10, 15, 25%. Now, granted, they also went up like 30 to 40% in a year where we were getting 9 to 10% here, which is way more sustainable. But I think I would be a little more shook or concerned if I was in like a market like that as opposed to here. I mean, I think it's definitely one of those things that is, you know, to keep your eye on it. But I would say like I've been through those cycles before where that's happened, and what I have found is if a lot of people do get, like they will resolve it one way or another, right?
We hope. We hope.
I mean, I would bet on it, so I would buy. But again, I would also buy with caution. Like, I think the biggest thing is like, don't try to make the best thing about real estate investing is like the numbers don't lie, right? Don't just say we're gonna have 10% appreciation year over year or whatever, and say we're gonna, because this comp that just sold right now pulled 700, we're gonna pull 725. I would not be doing that. I think we're getting back to our normal seasonality of the market, and in Northern Virginia, prior to COVID, our seasonality is like our spring market starts like January 15th, and it goes until about Memorial Day weekend. Our summers, June, July, August, tend to slow down dramatically. Homes still sell, but they tend to linger a lot longer on the market, and they don't hit the same price point. And then our fall market from like Labor Day to the week before Thanksgiving almost mirrors what we see in the spring. So what we have found over the 15, 16 years that we've been doing this is we have found profitable deals year round, regardless of what's kind of going on economically speaking or geopolitically speaking. And if we could handpick a time though that we're buying in the summer or the holiday months, and we're going back on the market in the fall or spring. Now, it doesn't always work out like that, but like, I would say that that's where I would really try to be finding value. Again, you can find value year round, especially if it's off market. But you know, that's not really answering your question because I don't know. But I would kind of keep my eyes on that, but I wouldn't let that like deter me if a great deal came along.
So your 250 deals, if you had to say the majority of which were what kind of cycle? You're buying when, you're selling when?
Oh man, shoot. Well,
is there a pattern?
We typically carry 6 to 8 at a time, and as one sells, we try to buy another one. So like we are buying year round. Like we just bought 2 within the last 2 weeks. So in the spring market, right? The height of the market, we just bought 2. One on the market, one off the market. Now, hopefully they're back on the market in the fall, like that's what we're targeting. So, I am not, like the time of the market is not gonna preclude me from buying anything if it's a good enough deal. Now, what will stop me from buying something is if, like you said, it gets bid up 90 grand or whatever to a number where it makes 0 sense. And honestly, like, you know, I got into real estate, I graduated college in 2007, started then into May of 2007, the market crashed started crashing late summer of 2007. So I got in like right when I saw the peak, and then it came down, but like that was a great time to learn because I saw that there's money to be made in every market, and that was like the Great Recession outside of the Great Depression was like the worst real estate market we've had, and there was money to be made. One of our top clients right now, who's our bank, she basically has like $25 million that she's like, you can take it and use whatever you want, whenever you want. She was doing in 2009, 10, and 11, she did 120 flips a year. So she was averaging 10 a month. And that was back when you were buying for like 2 to 250, putting 60 into it and selling for 450. She was like, her average net was 120 a pop. So for like 3 straight years, that's when no one, everyone was scared, right? No, but she had cash and she had the ability to do it. So like, I think that there's money to be made in any market. It's just a matter of like making sure you can navigate it and find the right deals. But I think learning from their experience kind of taught me like, okay, like if you can find the deal, there's money to be made. And that was when no one was buying, right? And like she would then price her nice home slightly below where some of these foreclosures were priced at the time, because we had 10 months of inventory on the market. And you were showing 100 homes to hopefully get somebody to write a freaking offer, Now it's like, you're seeing one home and we've got 10 offers. So it's the dichotomy of the markets have completely changed, but I think there's opportunity in every market.
Thank you.
I have a question for the group. How many people, because I want to talk about an indicator for economics, and many people might be aware of it, but how many people know what M2, the M2 chart of Federal Reserve is? Raise your hand if you know what M2 Federal Reserve.
I know what M2 is, but I don't know.
Okay, so M2 or M3, but basically the market's rigged, because the Federal Reserve will create money for the government, and basically the chart, if you just type in M2 Federal Reserve, you will see a chart of the amount of money in circulation. Yep. And you will see that in about August 2021, it peaked and then went down, or something. You'll just see a big peak and then a trough, and then you'll see it going down recently, which is practically unheard of. But considering how much they increased the quantity of money out there during 2020, was like outrageous. So then now they're decreasing it, which hints at a worse market because there's less money available, making money sort of tighter. Banks are less likely to lend it. But if you get familiar with that chart, M2, you should be able to kind of have a better understanding of what's ahead. I mean, there's people who know really what's ahead because Federal Reserve is just a bank and it's just people making decisions, and you can make a lot of money if you know when the high point in the market is, because you can sell and then you could buy at the low end. And so I'd say it's a racket, I'm sorry to tell you. But you can still make money in that, but I would just look at M2 Federal Reserve.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that, but I'll look into it. But I will say, like to that point, everybody that I know personally that has made a lot of money in real estate investing has made the vast majority of their money in a down market.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So I honestly hope that comes.
Right. No. I mean, you just have to know where the down is. But I think reliably, it's hard to know.
Yeah.
But like I know someone who's in the real estate business, and he's connected. And so before the 2008 crash, he had a line of credit, and he was maybe using 10% of it. True story. Okay. I mean, I didn't ask him who he knows, but he called his bank before the crash, and he said, I'd like to take all the money out on my line of credit. And they're like, what do you mean? He's like, I want it all. And he did that because the line of credit would have did dry up after the crash, had he not taken out that money. And so then, because of the crash, he was able to buy low, And so he bought low. Like, even if you look at any stock right now, the market peaked in stocks about August 2021, and now it's like 40% down. So those people who knew that it was going to crash, who knew that the Federal Reserve was going to stop issuing money at the same rate it had done, for those people who knew ahead of time, they sold about before August 2021, and now those stocks that they sold are now selling at 40% less. They're just buying them back.
Oh yeah.
It's a great thing. You sell at 10 and you buy at 6.
Well, I mean, if we can all do that, that'd be great.
No, I know.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying it's possible for us.
Yeah.
You have to be like this guy I know who knows ahead of time.
You either gotta be the one making the calls, or you're the government politicians that are making the.
Well,
you're gonna be Nancy Pelosi's husband.
Or no, Nancy Pelosi's husband is a good example of how there definitely are people who know ahead of time about things.
Yeah.
But for those of us who don't, you can still look at M2 Federal Reserve and at least see the pace at which, or if they've stopped issuing money. Because the new money, first it goes to the vendors of the federal government, because most of the money is lent to the government. A lot of it's lent to banks too, who have overexposed themselves. But a lot of it's led to so the money, the federal government, what do they spend their money on? Weapons, government contractors. So it takes a little while for those people to then buy homes, but eventually they do. And so if you see that M2 start going up again, that means that the market's going to be bouncing back.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and I appreciate that, honestly. But like, you know, and I would say like bouncing back. So you're saying it's already down.
It's still continuing to go down. They're still reducing the quantity of money
Yeah.
in circulation.
So it's going down,
Yeah.
and our local real estate market is still going up.
Okay, good. Okay,
So
yeah,
then
no, there's
when it
a
goes
lot
up,
of factors.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, right.
you
Oh,
know,
I see what you're saying.
You know, like,
Right.
I mean, is that going to be
Was
like
it going?
exponential growth?
Was our local market going down for a while? Yes.
Honestly, like year over year, if you look at the NVAR stats, we're like 2.5% price appreciation from March last year to
Mhm.
March this year. And
Right.
March last year was phenomenal, right? Like
Mhm.
rates were at 3%. So
Mhm.
the fact that we still have price appreciation year over year and we're at 6.5%, it's kind of mind blowing, right? No one thought that was going to happen. So that, like, that's something that, like, again, I think real estate's hyper local, you know,
Yeah.
and I think that definitely plays a big factor. But so, I mean, that's actually kind of encouraging to me. Like, if that happens and we're still like on an upward trajectory for our local market and M2 is going down, again, I know nothing about that, but like if that's the cadence that we're at, I can only imagine if that thing bottoms and goes up, then like our trend line goes from here to here, like keep buying, you know? Yes.
I have a question. I don't know if this is too far off topic, but I was wondering if anybody here had any experience with subject to deals, because I had a question about that.
I haven't done sub two, just seller finance.
Anybody? Subject to?
I've done them like when I first started like 10 years ago.
Okay.
I don't know how much help I'll be to you now.
Maybe I could talk to you after? Would that be cool? Thank you.
You got a subject to potential?
No, I heard a podcast on it today and I was absolutely taken by it and I thought it was brilliant. And they were talking about how he was talking about how he finds expired listings and, you know, offers people what they want for the home. So I was wondering, let's say someone has a $200,000 mortgage left and you're gonna do a deal with them, the subject to deal with them and pay their mortgage, but they have $100 equity in the house. Like, how do you go about paying the mortgage and making sure they get their equity payment too?
Yeah, that's where you have to do seller financing and create a second note on the property. It'll be the second lien position. So basically their existing loan being first, and then the seller will take a second note that you'll have to make them additional payments to.
With interest?
With whatever you negotiate. So you could just do principal only, it just depends on the deal.
Okay, so there would basically be two payments. You're paying the mortgage
When
and
they
then
have
you're also paying them.
if there's no equity in the property, then it would just be a traditional subject to deal. Because you'd either be buying it with a small down payment or for no money out of pocket and just taking over the loan. But if there's extra equity, you'd have to seller finance that remaining portion, create another instrument, or pay that cash at closing, the seller.
Okay, and do they usually sign the deed over, or do they usually leave it with a lawyer in escrow?
Usually they do sign a deed over, but there is a risk of the bank calling the loan due, and that's one of the problems that everyone's
If
scared
they
of.
sign the deed over?
If they sign the deed over, yeah. I mean, you can just keep it in, a safe, but there's, inherent risk to that if it's not recorded. Cause technically the seller could go sign another person, or another contract, and
Do the same thing.
whoever records the deed first. That's why it's good to record it, but I do know someone whose loan was called due, and they had to refinance.
But how did they get caught and their loan, like,
Really? Yeah.
but how did they get caught and why was the loan due?
The bank is, I believe in this scenario I'm talking of, the person died, and for whatever reason, I don't know if it was in the land records or something, but it came across, the bank's desk that the person who initially had the loan out passed away, and then I think the title searchers saw that the title had changed.
Oh, okay.
And for the record, like, subject to or seller financing, or even aside from that, like, we've bought multiple homes as a rental property, like in our personal name, and then we have transferred the title to our LLC name because we wanted to get the individual personal rates like 2-3 years ago. And if our bank, I mean, granted, we're not missing payments, but if the bank saw that it's now in 123 LLC, they do have the ability to call our note just because we shifted title from my name and my business partner's name to a company's name.
Well, what do they tend to prefer? I mean, they got something that's like in the bag there, so if they call it, chances are you're not gonna use them for the next loan, so they're losing out.
Agreed. I mean, obviously they
I
wanna
mean,
get
do you
paid.
see a tendency, a trend? I mean, 9
Well,
times out of 10, do they keep it?
I was gonna say the bank's rationale is if they're lending 500K at 2% and current interest rates are 7%.
Right.
Exactly.
They want that money back so they can relend it and capitalize on that profit.
Yeah, so I think that there's a chance, we're prepared where if it happened, we can have somebody that can just pay it off and we'll refinance it separately, but that's exactly what is like, we have 2.5% on a couple $1 million. These banks, if they see that, they're like, give us our money back, cause we're not gonna make any money on this over the long haul, over 30 years.
Yeah.
I just wanted to throw a deal out for my builder people that's in here. Staying in your lane, basically what we're talking about today. Like I do fix and flip. That's all. I don't know nothing about new construction. So from my letter, one of the letters I sent out, there's a house in South Arlington. Owner wants it. He wants to sell it to me. So I should get it locked up by tomorrow. And on that street, they got like a duplex going up 2 doors down, and then like across the street they're getting ready to start construction. Like the end of the street, there's a new build going up. I don't know how you guys look at the lot or how y'all buy or how you guys price it out. So I would love to talk to you guys and learn about that so I can get at a number where it makes sense for everybody. Cause I'm just like swinging blindly right at this moment because I don't know what to go to sell it for or buy it for. So I'd love to talk to you guys
Out of curiosity, like where in South Arlington, between 50 and Columbia Pike or south of Columbia Pike?
South of Columbia Pike, it's on South Monroe Street.
Okay, it's like the Douglas Park area, I think.
Yeah, over there.
Mhm. Okay.
So I would love to see what people are buying lots for in the area, so I can get that contract accordingly and I can move on. So.
Well, for sure, man. Like, I mean, obviously we got builders in the room, like, talk to them, I'm happy to chat with you as well. And then obviously before we break to network, does anybody else have any deals that they wanna throw out there that they're trying to offload or figure out or partner on?
I'll probably have something coming up in Annandale, a single family home on about an acre. That's gonna be a lot of work or a tear down. I haven't signed the seller yet, but I should next week. So if any of you are interested in a fix and flip that I haven't met yet and you wanna give me your info, I can let you know once I get that.
Got a ballpark price on that?
A ballpark price, around 600.
Oh yeah.
Is it inside or outside the Beltway Annandale?
It is inside the Beltway.
Okay.
And I'm looking for, partners to do Airbnbs, so out in Shenandoah National.
She's your lady.
Yeah.
Very cheap info, yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Sweet.
throw that out there.
Alright, anybody else got anything before we break?
If anyone wants to talk about land patents, heard of that? I'm not your guy, but I'm willing to discuss it. If you haven't heard of them.
You're like the master of obscure topics.
Hey.
Mix it up.
No, that's awesome. Well, obviously, we appreciate everybody coming, and yeah, let's just, we got 15 minutes or so in the room to network, so please go ahead and go about that, and yeah, we'll be back next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
You, go ahead.
Well, no, I mean.
Sorry for being late, my friend.
Oh, no worries, better late than never.
Do you have a card I can grab?
I'm not exactly sure what right now. Mostly been looking at like Alexander, Springfield, kind of Woodbridge area. Whenever I do, I'm trying to fix it. So I just started getting into this. I've been doing it. Trying to get my own needs, but also trying to talk to these guys. So Sure. To the end user. Yeah. So you do your own fixing with those two? Yeah. Oh yeah, you can use that.
No, I don't work at a
Yeah, I'm trying to lots of I'm excited about it.
This is the hardest one.
Anywhere he talked about doing second floor additions,
I'm kind of thinking maybe it's
Yeah.
I love it. I'll stay all night and talk about Airbnb. Oh, yeah, sure. Perfect. Thank you. What were you saying? Yes. So I have a single-family home. It's right on the border of like Annandale, West Falls Church, near Lake Norcross. Just not in the neighborhood south side. And so it's a 5-bedroom. My husband and I bought like a decade ago. We were doing long-term rentals in it. But I talked them into being converted to a short-term last year. And so we put it on the market for short-term back in June last year. And it's your bank before. Yeah. It's been very exciting. I would have applied before, but my husband told me I'm not allowed to until I motivation for our house. And I've been down the road